Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, the irony was I checked in downstairs, and I had asked for a bridal suite. And this is what they gave me. All these people. What are you doing here?
I came to hear you.
You know, the only, how tall are you? 6'2". One of the problems with not being my height or smaller, it's hard to be a street shooter, you know, and not be noticed. You're going to be noticed. So if I were you, get an operation, cut off at the knees, and then you'll be ready for street shooting. Jay Maisel is about that height, and the only reason I let him talk to me like that, the way he did before, I beat him in basketball. You know, and I'm a midget compared to him. So anyway, you came to look at pictures, not listen to me. So I will start off with some pictures, if I can figure out how to work this damn thing. There we go. Now, my mantra, if I have to have a mantra, there's two. I go by what Robert Frank said. The colors of photography are black and white. That's for me. I mean, there are other gentlemen here who are shooting color, and that's fine. That's their taste. But I shoot in black and white. I like being more specific. I think black and white is more specific for me because color, I can't control color. Wedding, and a bridesmaid who was in a beautiful green satin dress wanted a picture with her mother. Okay, it's a snapshot. It's not a big deal. I can take that picture. But the mother had a red striped dress on. Next to the green satin, I'm looking at that and I said, there isn't a painter, since those guys were doing cave paintings in France, that would put these two colors together. I can't control color. So I shoot in black and white. It's a lot easier. The other thing I do, and the fellow before me, Joe, was saying that his favorite lens, or one of his favorite lenses, is a 14 rectilinear. That's a great lens. But, and I've said this before, every lens has its own vocabulary. And the other thing is, every lens requires a certain personality. So if you're going to use a 14 or a 21, which I like, and a 24, which I like, you better have the right personality because you're going to be in there close. You know, he was talking about a 50 millimeter lens. A 50 millimeter lens to me is a telephoto. I can't use a 50 millimeter lens. Cartier-Bresson, he could, and he did. And I always felt that his work was a bit distant. So, and I'm not being critical in that, by using that word. I got to get close. I'm close, and that's where I want to be. There was a scene in the Marx Brothers movie where Groucho... You're late. Get his name. Thank you. Teach you to show up in the middle of my... Anyway, where was I? What was I talking about? One at a time, please. What? Marx Brothers. Oh, yeah, the Marx Brothers, thank you. Groucho's dancing with this woman. She says, hold me closer. He pulls her in. He goes closer, pulls her in, goes closer. He goes, if I was any closer to you, I'd be in back here. That's the way I feel a lot of times. I am so close, I have to remind myself, back up a little bit. Now, a kid came to see me in my gallery once, and he showed me a bunch of pictures, and I said to him, after looking at his work, I said, your depth of field is not as important as your depth of feeling. I want to know what you feel. I don't care about technically how good you are. That bores the tears out of me. I see some photographs that are just magnificent, you know, in their technical approach. But they're empty. They're vacuous. So show me a poorly printed photograph that says something rather than something that's really spectacular that says nothing. So that's easy to understand. Again, close. Propinquity, remember that word. Let me Google it and see what the hell it means. Oh yeah, there it is, yeah. Propinquity, that's the key, for me. I'm not saying it's for you. Not everybody has, an aggressive nature like me. So, you're rather shy. You better stay away from this stuff. Expression, I don't have to tell you to look for expression. Look for it, it's there. Now, if you really want to make a jerk out of yourself, shoot into a mirror. But one of the reasons I like this is because it's so artful in a sense. I love that curve and that whole empty space there, and then those two knuckleheads over here in the corner. This happens a lot. There are a lot of times you set up, somebody says, the bride says, can we get a picture of the groomsmen or the bride and groom and the mother and father? Yeah, okay, sure, anything you want. Get them all together and you shoot it. Don't stop there. Watch what happens when they break up and get in the middle of that. And that's what happens here. They finished. We finished a little shoot. And that's what happens. So pay attention to, after you've posed everybody, and say, okay, that's great, let's go. Don't move. This was easy. But in a sense, it was almost an accident. I'm shooting with one hand, and I had a glass of water in the other hand. And as I raised it up to take a drink, I looked through it, and I said, oh, man, that is wild. So I held it out, one hand, shot through the glass, and there it is. Oh, that's the other thing that I do. I don't know about the other guys. I think a lot of the other fellas are pretty regimented and strict about what they shoot, and they know what they're doing. I haven't got a clue. I'm serious, man. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Whenever I shoot a wedding, and let me get one thing clear. I am not a wedding photographer. I've photographed over 120 weddings, but I don't accept the label. At one time, I used to be a hockey photographer. I shot it for 10 years, so Mel DiGiacomo, hockey photographer. I didn't buy that. Tennis, I've shot 43 US Opens. But I'm not a tennis photographer. I shoot tennis, but I don't accept the label. The same thing with wedding photographer. I'm a photographer. I want to shoot pictures. I don't care what I'm shooting. I just want to make good pictures. And generally, there's nothing planned. So when I do a wedding, I tell the bride and groom, look, there have got to be obligatory mom and pop photos. No problem. I have no problem with that. Right after the ceremony, and let me say this much, I'd much rather be at a Jewish ceremony than a Catholic ceremony, because those priests are murder. And I got cousins that are priests. Means nothing. I get no pull out of that. I've got two cousins that are nuns. They're very strict. You can stay here and don't move. Otherwise, you're excommunicated, That's all right. I've become an Episcopalian, The hell, And you remember what George Carlin said about Episcopalians? It's Catholic light. Anyway, the rabbis, they're friendly. They're happy. Stay there. Take your pictures. Don't make a fool of yourself and stay there. That's great. The priests, they're tough. So at a Catholic wedding, it's a bit difficult for me to get any expressions from bride and grooms unless I'm further back in the sacristy, and then you might be able to see their faces. So I tell the bride and groom, the minute the priest says, or the minister or whatever says, I now pronounce you man and wife, you give her a kiss, you walk down the aisle, we take a lot of pictures of you walking down the aisle, we get to the back, everybody shakes hands, then, and you tell the groomsmen and the bridesmaid, you get the bride's family, you get the male's family. Bring them all up to the altar. The minute everything is finished there, we take the pose photographs then. Then you can go back and enjoy the cocktail hour. I don't want to cut into the cocktail hour. I don't even want to be a part of the wedding. It's their day, not mine. So I say from then on, after we take the pose photographs, leave me alone. And I will take pictures. And the best compliment I ever got from a bride was, I never saw my wedding. My wedding was a blur. Everybody wanted a piece of me. She said, you were my witness. You showed me my wedding. And, I can't ask for more than that, outside of getting paid, of course. With the new cameras, and I'm not touting one over the other, but I happen to use the Canon 5D Mark III, which I love, because I want to shoot natural light. I shot with a strobe for years, but I'd much rather shoot natural light. And the way you learn to shoot natural light, did I say natural light? Natural light is, somebody spiked my coffee, I think. You want to learn to shoot in natural light? Go to the Met, though they don't have that much, but pick up a book by Michelangelo Caravaggio, not Michelangelo Buonarroti, who does ceilings. This was Michelangelo Caravaggio. He invented a thing called chiaroscuro. And in Yiddish, how do you say chiaroscuro in Yiddish? Oh, you're Persian, I'm sorry. That's it, that's good enough. And the Dutch masters picked that up, Rembrandt and all those other guys, with the light and dark contrast. Look at Caravaggio's lighting. That's the way I try to light, and that happens with situations like this. This is the bride behind watching her sister get made up. Again, I want to be in the middle of things. I don't care if something's happening, and I'm certainly not going to pose anything, unless it's a rare occasion. So I get in the middle of everything. And that's what happens when you get in the middle of everything. This picture was so good, we ran it twice. Again, I'm getting close, man. And I got a compliment from a guy named Ron Trevisano, who used to run a big agency in New York. And he complimented me on my lighting. I can't light the way Joe does. These guys know how to light. I don't know how to light. I know what light looks good. So I use a pop flash on the Canon 5D, and then when I go on the computer, that's where my lighting comes in. I spent 30 years in the darkroom, and that's where you really learn how to light, by moving it around, by dodging, burning, and bleaching. And my teacher was a guy named Mike Schifrin, who used to print for Irving Penn. Mike knew how to print, and that's where I learned. So even though this was strobed, it doesn't have that cold, hard, glare to it. These are two members of the Gambino crime family. And no. Did I just say, I'm sorry. Hey, Uncle Carmine, I was only kidding. For those of you who don't know, and you should know, the guy in the foreground with the cigar is Jay Maisel. The guy in the background is a guy named Larry Fink. Now, if you want to learn about lighting, look at Larry's work. He lights brilliantly, and he uses chiaroscuro quite a bit. He's a great photographer. If you haven't seen his books, Social Graces is one. That's a marvelous book, and I'm not promoting that, but you learn by looking at pictures. That's what I did. You know, somebody said to me, "What film school did you go to?" I used the same line that Trenton Tarantino said. I didn't go to film school. I went to films. And that's what I do. I never went to school, mainly because I know I'm a terrible student. I'd hate being there. I'd hate the discipline of sitting down, taking notes like you are, politely doing that. I can't do that. So I'd go to the Museum of Modern Art. I go to the Met. I go to the Howard Greenberg Gallery. I go to the Julia Saul Gallery. I'd look at photographs constantly. And if you go downtown, put a dot in the middle and a circle, 25 galleries within that circle. So that's where you really should be, is looking at pictures. Go to Barnes and Nobles. Sit down, have a coffee, and look at all the photography books. I never titled my photographs, but this one I titled, and I said, Maisel is a Fink. Actually, I said, check that. Larry's a Fink. No? What happened? What is this, an audience or an oil painting? Oh, my God. Well, it's so quiet in here, I can hear the zippers in the men's room. Oh, I'm glad you guys like these old jokes, because I'm just recycling them. This is a rare shot with a long lens. It's what lens do you, no, this gentleman over here had a 24 to 105. Yeah, that's the lens I had, and I was lucky to get that shot. It's so lovely. It's a charming photograph. Again, natural light, and just let people do what they do. I got to tell you one quick thing. Laurence Olivier. How many people know that name? Oh, good, an educated audience. Laurence Olivier, for those who didn't raise your hand, is an English actor, great English actor. And he said something about the Italians that I relate to. He said, there are 50 million actors in Italy, and the worst ones are on the stage. So all you have to do is walk the streets, Rome, Naples, Palermo. They're all actors. And God forbid you're driving in Italy and you get lost and you want to ask somebody, which way is a certain city. And there's one guy, that's fine. But if there are two guys, you're in trouble. Because the first guy will go, sempre dritto, due semaforo, a sinistra. The next guy will go, no, ma no. He'd give you his directions. They're all experts in Italy, every one of them. And if you get 3 or 4 of them, you got a kabuki theater there, just jump in and start taking pictures. No, I didn't pose her. She was standing like that, and I just grabbed it. I did do this one. I did pose this because I had to. That dress was blowing all over the place. It was windier than hell. So I asked the bridesmaid, I said, pick up that dress and hold it up so it doesn't get dirty and it doesn't trip the bride. As she did that, that made the photo. I saw that, and that's it. The bride came with her own tattoo. That's a chancy photo. You're shooting into the sun, you don't know what you're going to get. But I'm saying to you, take chances. There was a fellow here before put on the microphone, and I told him an expression in Italian, and I don't want you to forget it, because this is important. This is philosophy. It has nothing to do with photography. Sorriso fa buon sangue. How do you say that in Yiddish? You don't know. Anyway, sorriso fa buon sangue means laughter makes good blood. And the guys who really know that are my Antiguan friend, because the Antiguans laugh at everything. And they've got the right attitude about life. This is my daughter, Domenica, better known as Nikki. And I wanted to get a shot of her, but the veil was crooked, so I picked it up with one hand, and I'm shooting with the other hand. There are plots and subplots. This is the plot, the foreground, which is a rather uninteresting picture. Two lovely kids, but the thing I like is the kid in the background looking away. So there's your subplot. Obviously an Italian wedding. This is a tough one, because this is the only time I give direction. The girls are on the porch of the girl's house, and I look over, and this is what I saw. Now, if I bring the camera up and I go to take a picture, you're going to see 16 smiles, and I don't want that. I want this. So I look at him, and very quietly I said, "Nobody move or change your expression." I took a step in, and I took the picture, and that worked. But had I raised the camera, and if I were 6'2", they'd notice me. I don't want them to notice me. Here's the problem. He's got his hand on a balcony. I was dying to move over further so I could get them both in the mirror, because I had anticipated that, but I couldn't get it. It's a nice shot, but I would have liked to have had the other thing in the mirror. David was commenting on this photo before. It's a nice photo. I like the expression and everything. But what I really like are the geometric patterns behind it. There's something to look for when you're shooting. This photograph, I'm sorry, this is my cousin and his girlfriend, but the first photograph was Matthew Albanese, and his father's Italian and his mother's Jewish. Do you know what you get when you cross an Italian and a Jew? You know? You are. Oh, well, see, let's hear it for Ishmael Russo. What you get when you cross an Italian and a Jew are two unhappy mother-in-laws. A lot going on there. Whenever there's chaos, I love chaos. I try and make order out of it. Oh, cheer up. The one thing I like about, I'm going to be ethnically correct here. I love the Filipinos because they laugh at everything. And all her friends were wonderful. I mean, it helps me out a lot. That rotten kid in the middle is my cousin, whom I named. Her name is Gianna DiGiacomo, a spectacular child. See how much more physical the pictures get when you're in close? You can actually read the Marlboro on the cigarettes in her pocket. Again, remember, when I'm taking a picture, I'm bringing you with me, you the viewer. You're right next to me, because you can reach out and touch these kids. And I remember reading once about Caravaggio. The writer was saying that Caravaggio was acutely aware that people would be looking at his paintings. And I have the same feeling. I don't want to come in here and show you things that don't make any sense. I want to involve you. I want you to look at that and say, oh my God, I can't get any closer. I love the scale of this. You know, it starts here and then diminishes over there. And the bride's hand is so expressive on that. This hand is very delicate. This hand is very passionate. And this was New Year's Eve, this wedding, and hence the label there. I don't have to caption the photo. She's already captioned it for me. What a silly kid. This is different. When I get nothing to do and I'm bored, and the picture's okay, it's not great, but it's okay, I solarize it on the computer, just for something different. I don't know if it's a fine work of art or it's going to hang in a museum somewhere, but it's fun. You know, you got to play once in a while at this game. You know the difference between a photographer and a large pizza? Anybody know? A large pizza can feed a family of 4. Again, where are you? You're right next to them. That's where you are. It's not an existential question. It's a specific question. You're right there. And the other thing is, and this I can't teach you. I mean, I can show you a lot of things, but I don't know if I can teach this. You've got to get close. And you can't be afraid of people. And the one thing that's great about a wedding, or the Mermaids Parade in Brooklyn, or the gay parade here in the village, people want to be photographed. That's your opportunity. There are plenty of times when you're a street photographer like Gary Winogrand and you're just out on the street, or Lee Friedlander, you know, somebody might yell at you, what are you doing? Why are you taking a picture of me? And then you got 40 questions there. But events like the Mermaids Parade, which 15 years ago was a great parade in Brooklyn, the problem with the Mermaids Parade is there are more photographers than there are mermaids, you know. And sometimes they make very silly photographs. So, you know, pick up the New York Times or whatever and see what's going on in the best city in the world for photographs, with the exception of Paris, another great city. I'll go through these rather quickly if I can. Again, I love the strength of the photograph in the foreground, but you got somebody in the background helping you out. This is my cousin Alex. Alex is with the Gambino family as well. As Alex and Peter. Pete, I have to give you credit there because your eye is in there. Jay Maisel again at his wedding, and this was about 60, 70 years ago, I think. That's how young he looks in that. There's a guy teaching his mother how to dance. Again, I play. I drop the shutter speed down to a 15th or an 8th, and I just jiggle the camera. The flash will freeze, because the flash is strong enough to freeze the individuals, but the lights will go like that. Thank heavens for Jewish weddings, because this stuff is exciting. Dangerous, but exciting. Again, there's this emotion going on. Don't get caught up in the emotion. You're a photographer. You're not allowed to blink. That's the first thing we learned at Newsweek. You cannot blink. Get in there. You're a witness. You have to come back as a witness and show people what happened. You can't look at that and go, oh, man, look at that, how nice. Shut up and take the picture. How do you handle a room full of other photographers? There you go. That's it. Do you remember Senator George Mitchell from Maine? It was at his wedding. Great guy, great wedding. That's it, gang.
All right. Awesome.